Well, that took a while, but we're finally back to Pokemon Tour. Today, we finally made it to the Kalos region. Now, several years ago, I did a set of challenges beating Pokemon X using only weak and weaker Pokemon, where I beat the game using only Pokemon with base stat totals under 400, then 300. And now I'm wondering if with all the knowledge and skills I've gained over the past 4 years, I could beat the game again with only the weakest Pokemon, with base stat totals under 200. Can we beat Pokemon X using only Pokemon with base stat totals under 200? Now, usually at the start of challenges like these, I give lots of examples of Pokemon that are stronger than the base stat total we're under. However, I only need one to tell you how screwed we are. It's Magikarp. Yeah, Magikarp is stronger than what we can use in this playthrough. Since we're so limited, the rules aren't. We're allowed to use HM Mules, held items, and are allowed to overlevel however much we want. First thing I needed to do was catch a Pokemon I could use. A loyal starter, if you will. I was left with one option. Everyone meet Triss the Weedle. It was our first battle, and we ended up winning pretty easily, actually, because this youngster didn't do anything and they died from poison sting damage. Alright. After that, I went through Santaloon Forest and found a Caterpie named Katniss. Since these two are so weak, though, it's time to do something I've not ever actively done in Pokemon Tour. EV training. See, depending on the Pokemon you KO in a battle, you gain an EV for a specific stat. You can gain up to 255 of these EVs in any one stat, which equates to 63 extra stat points in just 2 stats. I boosted Caterpie in attack and speed specifically, and Weedle in health and speed, which took forever. After that, I found an Azurill. Her name is Bella, and I ended up EV training her in a variety of stats, making Bella the team's tank. With my team of 3 not very strong Pokemon by my side, it was time to enter the first gym. Also, it took 40 hours to get to this point. Yeah, EV training this early in the game takes a while. However, since all of the Pokemon were level 30 at this point, Triss saw Viola's team, and with a ridiculous amount of unearned confidence, defeated her entire team on her own, winning us the first badge. While working towards the next gym, I found a Ralts. This is Alice, and I even trained her up as well in special attack and speed. By the way, this is it. This is the whole team I get in this challenge. These 4 Pokemon, who are all weaker than Magikarp, and who also took over 50 hours to EV train. With so much time put into these Pokemon, they were still really overleveled, and only Alice and Katniss were needed to defeat Grant's team. We earned our second badge. I later met up with my rival Callum, who wanted to battle me for a Mega Ring, which I can't even use anyway. So I was willing to let him have it, but he insisted on taking out my entire team twice. On attempt 3, I was able to get lucky and defeat Callum, but I definitely need to figure out a strategy as to how to take him on later. I didn't really have time to think about that yet though, because next up was the 3rd gym. However, Karina being a fighting type trainer made having 2 fairy types pretty helpful, as we were able to pretty easily take out this gym too. That's 3 badges. I was then forced into a rematch with Callum, and in this battle, everything sort of started to click for me. Return on Azrael will do tons since we're at max friendship thanks to all the EV training, and Caterpie having all those attack EVs made her my prime attacker. And Ralts was my best way of taking out water types. There wasn't really much more I could do about them than just hope that Ralts' magical leap could do the trick. Everything clicking made me slightly less stoppable, as I defeated Ramos' ladder Pokemon with Caterpie and defeated Jumpluff with Azurill from the sky. That was our 4th badge. Now, I went straight to the 5th gym and had a pretty rough time taking on one of the gym trainers, so I decided to level up to level 50. Even though we were 13 levels above Clement's strongest Pokemon, we were still losing pretty terribly. Attempt 7, I led with Bella, and Amalga used Volt Switch, switching him out for Magneton. Magneton used Electric Terrain, and we used Surf. This got a crit, which caused Clement to switch to Heliolisk. They used Thunderbolt, which we blocked with Protect. I proceeded to double Protect, causing the Electric Terrain to disappear, and then she ended up getting KO'd the next turn. I swapped her out for Triss. I had her use Bug Bite, but then we got hit by Thunderbolt. However, Triss's bulk allowed her to tank the hit, so she could defeat Heliolisk, and then Emolga was back. We tried to get off a poison, but Emolga didn't get poison and then hit us back with Aerial Ace, taking us out. I sent out Alice next, and had her psychic power defeat the Emolga. Magneton was Clement's last Pokemon, and we used Psychic, and since Magneton was half down, Alice was able to defeat them, winning us the 5th badge. Since Clement's gym was so hard, I decided to bring the team up to level 60. And by the way, the league is level 70 for your knowledge. This overleveling made Valerie's gym much easier than it should have been, with only 2 members of my team being needed to beat her. The next gym wasn't hard either, thanks to us having a pretty significant type advantage, so we defeated Olympia pretty easily as well. We got the 6th and 7th badges. Then Lysander appeared, and said that he wanted to destroy the world. I need to defeat him in order to put an end to his evil plan. This fight actually took several attempts, but then there was attempt 4. I had Triss go up against his Mienfoo, however Weedle isn't able to do much to Mienfoo before going down anyway. So I sent out Azurill next, and had her use Bounce. This was an amazing move to use on as Minferno went for High Jump Kick, and the mist caused them to take themselves out. Lysander sent out Gyarados next, who used Iron Head, and it barely didn't beat us, but we got flinched and ended up going down next turn. I sent out Katniss to fight Gyarados next. Caterpie hit them with a tackle, doing about half, and after 2 turns, Gyarados took us out with Aqua Tail. Finally was Alice, and we hit Gyarados with a crit Dazzling Gleam, defeating them. Murkrow came out next, and we OHKO'd them at the Dazzling Gleam. Pyroar was his last Pokemon, so we used Calm Mind, and Ralts used her small size to avoid a Fire Blast. The next one did land, and barely didn't KO us. We hit them back with Stored Power, which didn't OHKO either. And I thought it was over, but they missed another Fire Blast, allowing Ralts to use Stored Power again, defeating Pyroar, winning us the battle. Lysander was arrested shortly after, but then some scientist dude just started trying to stop me from progressing and defeated me twice. But he couldn't stop me forever, and we managed to defeat him eventually. However, right after we finally caught the slimy guy, Lysander escaped, so I had to go after him. However, thanks to me having taught Ralts Thunderbolt, the next battle of Lysander was actually really easy, and the battle was actually a sweep. A little later, he'd try using Mega Gyarados, but Katniss was just too powerful and managed to defeat them. Team Flare had been defeated, and the world had once again been saved by me. My last goal before the league was to defeat the last gym leader, Wulfric. I led with Katniss against his Abomasnow. We used Bug Bite, which did about half, but then Abomasnow KO'd Caterpie with Ice Beam. I sent out Triss next and used Poison Sting a few times. We got a poison before Abomasnow took us out with Ice Shard. I sent out Bella next against Abomasnow, who tried to take us down with several Ice Booms, but we were taking them pretty well thanks to our ability Thick Fat. We hit them a few times with Return before they used Energy Ball, which did a bit of damage, which we lived, and then hit them with another Return, taking down Abomasnow. Cryogonal was next, and they decided to set up Hail first. We used Return as they did, and they just went for another Ice Beam, so we were able to take them out next turn. We used Surf as they started boosting their defenses with Curse. Eventually, Avalugg took us out with Avalanche. However, Avalugg was too low on HP, and Alice was able to come in and defeat them with Dazzling Gleam. We won the last gym badge. On the way to the league, Callum challenged me to one last fight. This was a tough fight, taking several attempts. On attempt 4, I led with Caterpie against Meowstic. They used Fake Out, but thanks to Caterpie's Shield Dust ability, we can't flinch, so we just used Bug Bite and defeated them. Next was Flareon, and I decided to switch out for Azurill, who ended up taking a Lava Plume and got burned. We used Surf a few times to take them out, but it took a few turns. Greninja came out next, and they used Water Shuriken, taking us out. I sent out Weedle next and got off a good String Shot. We also got off a few Bug Bites before Greninja took us out. I sent out Katniss again, and we were able to easily KO Greninja. Altaria came out next, and we were able to get off 2 tackles, getting Altaria just above half as they KO'd us with Dragon Pulse. Finally, I sent out Ralts, and Calum sent out Absol along with Altaria. Cheater. However, Alice channeled all of her power and struck down both of them in one go, winning us the battle. Suffice to say, getting through the victory road was way too tough, so I needed to get stronger. I needed to get the whole team to level 100 and gather a few extra TMs for me to use. Which I did do, but it took a while. But now it was time to take on the Pokemon League. The Elite Four was actually pretty easy, except for this motherfucker! Wickstrom's team being Steel wasn't helpful, especially since he had a particularly hard-hitting Scizor, who wouldn't be a problem if Klefki wasn't Wickstrom's lead. This fight was brutal. I tried a ton of different strategies, items, moves. At one point I even thought using Swagger would be a good way to go, and I hate Swagger as a move. But then on attempt 16, I realized what we needed to do to win. Against Ralts, I noticed that Klefki's AI would always go for Flash Cannon, and unless I used Calm Mind, I'd be OHKO'd by them. However, for some reason, the AI can tell what items you have. I know this because I gave Alice a Babari Berry, a berry that lessens the damage from super effective Steel-type moves. Klefki would notice this, and it would make Klefki always pick a random move rather than only picking Flash Cannon. Meanwhile, with the +2 special attack, Ralts could actually OHKO Scizor with a Thunderbolt, and Scizor wouldn't go for Bullet Punch anymore since Ralts wasn't able to be OHKO'd, meaning my Ralts could outspeed and OHKO the Scizor before being able to do anything. But this would only be possible if Ralts was at full HP. This would be pretty tough to pull off, but Klefki knows 2 status moves, so it actually is pretty likely for Ralts to OHKO the Scizor pretty easily. Attempt 17. We managed to get off 2 Calm Minds as they set up 2 layers of spikes. I was fine with this until I noticed they set up a 3rd layer of spikes as I used Shadow Ball. Meanwhile, I could have set up another Calm Mind. Oh well, it'll have to do. Scizor came out and I instantly OHKO'd them with Thunderbolt. Probopass came out and I switched to Triss. She used Bug Bite, which broke Probopass's sturdy, and they took us out with a Power Gem. I sent out Azurill next, and after quite a long battle, Probopass managed to take out Azurill with Flash Cannon too. Ralts came back in and we started using Thunderbolt on Probopass. However, they hit us back with Flash Cannon, which we survived thanks to our Babari Berry. And we hit them back with a Thunderbolt that paralyzed Probopass, and as Wickstrom tried to heal them up, we hit them again and Probopass was fully paralyzed. We hit Probopass with one more and they finally went down. Last was Aegis Slash. We used Shadow Ball, which did about half to Aegis Slash as they attacked and took out Alice. It was all up to Katniss now. We both hit each other and Katniss lived on 2 HP before barely a high roll KOing Aegis Slash. We beat Wickstrom. It was now time for the final battle with Champion Diantha. I redid our items and movesets, and going into the battle, I knew this was it. I led with Alice against Hawlucha, and we used Psychic, OHKOing them. Next was her Gourgeist, and this time I used Shadow Ball. Next was Tyrantrum, and we used Dazzling Gleam, which OHKO'd them. Next was Aurorus, and I decided to switch out here and sent in Bella in her place. Both of us were incredibly bulky, but eventually we got them down after getting paralyzed by a Thunder. Next was Goodra. We ended up having to tank a Focus Blast, and then we were fully paralyzed 3 times in a row. Luckily though, they missed a bunch of Focus and Fire Blasts, and even more luckily, we got an Ice Beam to freeze them. At this point, I knew it was all or nothing. I swapped away from Bella to Alice and started using Calm Mind. We got 1 special attack boost, which allowed us to take out Goodra with a Dazzling Gleam. And finally was Diantha's Mega Gardevoir. We outsped, and 1 Shadow Ball was all it took to take her down. And with that, I placed the team into the Hall of Fame, ending the playthrough. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Pokemon Tour. If you enjoyed it, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, share this video with everyone you know and love. And I have to say, it was really nice to finally come back to this challenge and complete it. It's been 4 years in the making, and this one was really special to me. So thank you for watching it. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode in Alola. Bye!